Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be swapping this 1976 Ford Crew Cab body onto a 2005 Ford Super Duty chassis. So this is the frame we're going to be using. It started out as a 2005 Ford Super Duty. It was a Crew Cab Long bed, and we're going to be making this into another Crew Cab Long bed with that body over there. I have a kit I'll go ahead and show you that makes it super simple to swap this. You haven't watched one of my other videos, but it puts new cab mounts on here, shortens the frame, and puts new bed mounts on it, so the old body bolts right onto this. So here's a quick view of the kit. We have front core support mounts, front cab mounts, rear cab mounts, and this is a mid cab support crossmember that the factory ones used. It was the same crossmember as the transfer case, but it used little rubber stoppers here to support the middle of the cab. Over here we have the cut template. It bolts onto the Super Duty frame and has these alignment slots where you just cut the frame with the Sawzall. This one has two on each side of the mid support of that crew cab frame. Then once the frame's cut, you move it together, put in this inner jig, weld the frame, and then you put on this outer gusset and weld and bolt that on. This selection here is the rear bed mounts. This is set up for if you were to have a F250 Crew Cab, which has the long bed and a narrow frame, just like a Highboy. So these ones are specific to the narrow frame beds. I also have kits for the standard width frame, and eventually I'll be coming out with the narrow frame short bed also. So now I need to get this frame into the shop and start modifying it. So I got the frame rolled in the shop here, got it up on jack stands and leveled out. Gonna work on cleaning up the frame here where we're gonna be working, and then I'll bolt these cut templates on here so I can cut the frame and then move it forward and weld it up. So I got the rust and scale cleaned off the frame where we're going to be working here. Went ahead and bolted these cut templates on the frame. Had to drill out the frame for this 3/8 bolts. They're existing holes, but they're metric, so just drill them out with a 3/8 drill bit. Put some 3/8 bolts through there to hold it on there. Gonna take this inside plumbing off. We got electrical, fuel, and the brake system. It's all held on with some plastic clamps with bolts that go through here. So just undo the, I think it's a 13mm nut. And then this brake union, we need to disconnect so we can peel this all out of the way. After everything's shortened, we'll end up just making a new brake line from this union forward to the master cylinder. With this cut template, we have a couple of holes we need to drill on the frame, and they're going to be used later on for this inner jig and also for the brace. So start with a 1/8 inch pilot hole, drill these out, and step it up to 1/2 inch. So the next step is to grind down the frame so it's flush with the template. Not sure if you can see here, but this was kind of cut at an angle, so that needs to be ground back all the way along here. Then pull these templates off, bevel the frame for welding, and also get it down to bare metal along the weld on both inside and outside. Got the frame cleaned up and down to bare metal around where we're going to be welding. Also put a 45-degree bevel on both sides of the frame here. Got the inner jig loosely bolted on this side. Going to move the frame together, then get it bolted on with the other two bolts. To move this together, I'm going to put on some ratchet straps on both sides of the frame here. And it will help draw this frame together and just kind of work it back and forth. So I have a slight mistake here on the frame they needed to fix. The cut template that I used was an older revision and had these holes a little bit farther apart. So I made up these jigs here that bolt into the reference holes and place new holes about 1 inch closer that we'll end up drilling out here. This is why I do all this prototyping and build a truck before actually selling anything, because of little mistakes like this. So I'll get everything drilled out on both sides and get this bolted together. So as you can see here, the frames together got it all in the same plane, leveled out both halves, went ahead and put some tack welds on here. This one I noticed that the frame had bowed out a little bit, so I went ahead and put a ratchet strap around there to bring it back in and took some measurements across this. And then I went ahead and did the normal thing of the last time where I clamped the angle iron on top here to get the top in the same plane and then bolt down the inner jig and clamp to it also. So get this all prepped up and we'll do some welding on this. So the frame's cut down, butt welded, and then we got this gusset on here, cleaned up the perimeter around here, inside where the rosette welds are gonna be, and then bolted it on. Also clamped it down to make sure it's all nice and tight on there. Went ahead and measured out my weld spacing for this setup. You wanna leave an inch gap between this lower corner and also these upper corners, and then space it 2-inch weld, 2-inch gap, 2-inch weld. But it doesn't always line out that way, so what we got on the side here is 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch weld, and on the top we got 2-inch weld, 2-inch space, and a 3-inch weld, 2-inch space, 2-inch weld. So got this set up on both sides, gonna go ahead and weld this all in, take the clamps off, and then finish off the butt weld on the inside joint. The frame shortening's all done, got the inside welded, this outside gusset all ground down smooth. Also went ahead and bolted in the grade 8 bolts and torqued those to spec with some Loctite on there. Next step on here is to get the cab mounts welded on. Gonna start with these front core support mounts. Again, they locate off of existing holes here. I'm gonna clamp them down, make sure they're level, get those welded on. Got the front cab mounts here, which again locate off of existing holes, that one there and that one there. I had to punch out this rivet because it kind of goes over the top of that. We'll go ahead and put a 7/16 bolt into that hole there. Get that mounted up and welded on there. Got the rear cab support here, which locates off of that hole there, which again, I didn't mention it, but I went ahead and cut off all the existing cab mounts and ground them down flush because they'll be in the way. So that'll go on there, put a bolt hole through there and weld that on. So this here is an experimental piece that I came up with. No other kit I've seen out there does this for the crew cabs. But the factory frame has little supports midway on the cab and it comes off of the transfer case cross member on the frame there. So this takes place of that. It's gonna bolt down onto the frame here and has these little rubber cups for the cab to mount onto. So gonna have to grind those down. I think we'll probably have to drill out those holes there and then that will get mounted about like that. Then after all that is done, we will work on getting the bed mounts on. So I got the frame cleaned up here, cab mount bolted on, also leveled out since this lower hole didn't line up, and then I clamped it down there. I'm gonna go ahead and do some tack welds and then pull this bracket off. The frame's all prepped and ready for the body to bolt onto it. Got the front core support mount welded on, the front cab mount welded on, the mid cab support crossmember bolted on, and then the rear cab mount welded on. For the bed mounts, they're tack welded, not fully welded. The reason for that is this is kind of a prototype build that I'm probably going to be selling, and I'm going to be testing out the narrow frame bed mounts onto this. So a factory F250 Crew Cab is a long bed and it has a narrow frame rail which has a specific bed mounting bolt pattern, same as a Ford Highboy. So these mounts are to test fit a bed onto this, and the bed's not the best shape, and since I'm probably going to be selling this, I left these tack welded, so if the new owner decides to get a different bed that's probably a standard bolt pattern, we can knock these off and put the new ones on there that are the standard. But pretty much what you can see is the other ones I had, they're just about this wide. This one sticks in the frame rail a bit more and kind of at different positions and a lot funkier on the mounting locating brackets. We got all this tack welded on here. I'm gonna go ahead and put some primer on it so it doesn't rust and then get this rolled out. Before I roll this out, I'm gonna install another new part that we're gonna be offering, which is a front bumper mount for the Super Duty frames. What this consists of is a cut template that locates off an existing hole, shows where you need to cut the frame rail, take that off, and then with that clean frame rail, gonna weld this part on, which hot off the welder, so I don't wanna touch it. But it has these alignment slots, which align with those holes there. So we'll clamp that on there, weld that on, and then we have this bracket here, which will bolt onto there. And those slots give you all sorts of adjustability left and right, up and down to get you a good fit onto the bumper. But this will allow you to fit a factory 73, or actually 67 to 78, 67 to 79 bumper onto the Super Duty frame to match the rest of the truck. So the first step here is to unbolt this front cross member, which I think is like a bash bar, so you don't decapitate someone in a Honda car. This one already has the tow hooks removed, so just one bolt on each side that is an 18 millimeter. Go. All right, so got the cut template clamped on both sides, referenced off of this hole here. The future ones will be a little bit longer and reference off of this hole also. Made sure they're square on there. Now we're gonna go ahead and do some cutting. I got the bumper brackets tack welded on the frame here. I did a little bit of modifications on my alignment jig here. Originally it was supposed to line up off of these slotted holes in the side of the frame, but they weren't exactly where I wanted them to be, or where they needed to be. So I made a template here to relocate off of these rear bracket or these rear bolt holes on the frame. Future sets will have a bracket that comes all the way back here out of metal to locate off of there, and that should locate this bracket right where it needs to be. So I'll go ahead and take this off of here and fully weld that in there. So I got the Super Duty frame rolled outside here and the crew cab body, or at least the cab, sitting over here. Got it all cleaned out, had a bunch of spare parts sitting inside of it. Got some energy suspension body bushings set on here. Gonna take this crossmember off for the time being because I think the height is wrong. And so once I get the cab onto here, I'll do some more measurements and probably get a new one of those. But everything's looking good. Got some primer on everything so it doesn't rust. I'll go ahead and get my fork extensions on the tractor and get this thing lifted up. So the cab's looking pretty good sitting on the new Super Duty chassis. Everything's lining up pretty good. That center cross member is going to have to be remade, but that was kind of as expected. The cab's not fully bolted down yet. It still needs to wiggle around and get centered up, but we'll be doing that once after we get the new cross member in. Right now I'm going to go grab the bed and set on here and see how that fits. So the bed is sitting on the frame now and it's all looking pretty good. Got both the cab and the bed bolted down. So everything underneath here is looking pretty good. Need to make some revision on brackets. There's a little bit of gap on these center ones, and also needed to add another support there like there is there. So cab mounts all worked out pretty well. Everything lined up pretty good and squared up. Got this cross member redone and it's fitting pretty good. There's some rubber isolators up there. I don't know if you can see. But right there is a rubber isolator that runs across on this support piece here to firm up the bottom of the cab there. Next step here is to go ahead and get the front clip onto the truck. Before I did that, I went ahead and put the brake booster and steering in here. So I sell these brake booster adapter brackets. This one's for a vacuum boost, also sell them for the Hydro Boost. And this here is the Borgeson steering components to connect the Super Duty steering box to the 70s dent side steering column, and all fits in there pretty good. And then lastly, I went ahead and checked the fitment on my bumper brackets here. Everything's looking pretty good. I'll have to take this back off to get this front clip on, but everything's coming together pretty well, and pretty soon we'll have a complete truck. So I got the front clip and the bumper bolted on, which pretty much finishes up this body swap. Turned out pretty good. The few minor things I need to tweak, but overall, I think it's a pretty solid kit. So let me know down in the comments what you think of this swap, if there's anything you want to see covered differently or more detail on. If I have any questions about the swap or anything like that. I'll have a link in the description for my website where I have these kits for sale. Right now it's single cab, super cab, and crew cab for 05 to 07. Also working on 99 to 04 and then an 08 to 10. So also let me know which one of those you want to see next. I got both of them coming up and I'm not sure what order to do them in. So until then, I think I'm going to clean this up a little bit and post it for sale. I don't have the time to build this out. I got plenty of other projects, but it will make a perfect start for someone that wants to do a modern crew cab build.